All right. Hey, good morning. It is Wednesday, March 5th, man. We've got some action happening with the NFL. We're going to be talking about NFL news and rumors today. Of course, your Detroit Lions are on the docket each and every day, but yesterday was supposed to be tag day. What happened? This was the least amount of tags in the last 20 or 30 years. I have a number, I have a figure, but this is the least amount of tags ever in such a long time. And I think that it speaks to maybe a little bit of the NFL getting a little bit smarter as to how they're working contracts with these players. We'll talk about that when we come back. Also, it's, tag day turned into cut day, and how the Lions are now projected to be linked to multiple free agents that were released yesterday. We have a few names in mind that we're going to discuss today. Devontae Adams may be making his way back to the NFC North. There's been some rumors there. Eric's got some information here on all the players that were cut yesterday. And Saquon Barkley reset the bankroll for running backs, which means Jahmyr Gibbs, he's going to have to get paid to stay here in the next couple of seasons. We're going to do all that when we come back here in just about 30 seconds or so. We'll see you back shortly.
Every day, thousands of people are discovering YOOPERLITES, Michigan's newest, funnest rock to go find on the shores of the Great Lakes. Don't go out with just any light. Try the Convoy C8 from yooperlights.com. It's guaranteed for life, and you'll find all the ones everyone else misses. Quality UV lights that are perfect for YOOPERLITES with prices starting as low as $20. Please make sure to visit yooperlights.com for all your UV flashlight needs with the best guarantees on the market. Just what you wanted and not what you didn't. The best quality, the best guarantees, and the best UV flashlights from yooperlights.com.
All right. Hey, good morning, Eric Rinta-Mackey. How's it going this morning?
Good, but I think you need to look at the stream. I don't think it's working.
Uh-oh. What do you mean it's not working?
It's just a circle of doom circle going around.
On YouTube?
Yep.
That's not fun.
No.
Oh, no, we're good.
Is it up?
Yeah, you must have a circle of doom.
On my phone, I'm seeing all the comments and everything. And
yeah, you might have the circle of doom. Look, I can't help people's internet. I can't help with people's volume. We can do what we can do, but our goal is to make sure that we are matched to YouTube. And when we're matched to YouTube, that's all we can do. If I go too high in the volume, it's going to sound terrible, distorted, and I can't sacrifice quality. If we have a couple of people that are having trouble, I would recommend, if you're using earbuds, make sure you get good earbuds, because there's some out there that are just terrible, that are awfully low volume output. But anyway, we should be good to go. If there's any issues, just let us know. I'll do the best we can.
Yeah, Trace says you could hear it. Okay, so how am I doing today? I am doing absolutely wonderful today. Even better than fantastic. Because you know why? I got an email last night from the Detroit Lions.
Uh-oh.
And I'm in line. I have a countdown timer, even tells me what time and everything. I get to go in and pick my season tickets tomorrow at 1:30.
I thought you were doing the transfer. You're not doing the transfer now?
I am. But I have the opportunity to buy 3 more. So that would give me 5 tickets if I want them. And I'm going to look and see what's available, because I have a deposit down for 3 tickets.
Right.
And now YouTube's not working for me at all on my phone, which is really weird.
That's you, man.
Yep, something on this end. So I'll restart my phone. But it's an amazing opportunity. So I might have 5 season tickets next year. So
just make sure you don't sell them.
No, exactly.
I feel bad for Jan, man. That's just Powell. That's just terrible what happened to him. And, I warned you guys. I told you at the end of the season, do not sell your tickets, more so because we wanted Lions fans in Ford Field, but also because the Lions are cracking down. Eric, we didn't talk about something the other day, so might as well just get off topic real quick.
Sure.
The Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
when they put out their rules, right? So they put out some definitive rules about what you can and can't do with your tickets.
Yep.
Didn't it say something like 100%, like once you get up to selling 100%, that they would make some changes? Do you remember how that went down?
So what happened with the Packers is if you have sold all of your tickets for multiple seasons, they are taking away your tickets, but they're warning you first.
Well, it's not that they're just warning you, but they're saying all of your tickets.
All of them, 100%.
Yeah. So for people that are going to at least 50% of the games, you know, and then they're doing what they can, you know, it's not like the Lions literally expect you just to buy tickets, and if you can't go, you just eat it. You just eat the cost. You just don't fill the seats. You just give them away. You know, I mean, there's a lot of transactional stuff that can happen with these tickets. Like, I mean, I could transfer them to 20 different people, but that doesn't mean that they were sold. So I said it a week ago. I think the Lions need to put out some definitive, you know, very clear information that we understand what we can and can't do, and make it fair. Put a hard line in the sand and say, no more. If you cross this line, if you're a habitual offender, you're going to get this warning, and that's it. But we allow you, you know, to sell 25% of your tickets at whatever cost. Who cares?
Yep.
You know, it's something. Give us something so that we can, you know, obviously you can't make every game sometimes, and it is what it is. You know, or sometimes people trade tickets, and you trade with a Packer or a Viking or a Bear, and you swap games to go to their stadium.
Yeah,
that happens all the time too. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox.
Yeah, well, listen, now that I have the opportunity to finally have my own tickets, the reason I opted to get 3 tickets in the beginning was because I was always going to use it as a business expense. So what I planned on doing was myself going to games, being able to bring my wife when I wanted to bring her, or if she wanted to go to a game, and then any other games, I wasn't going to sell them. I was going to give them to potential customers of mine and potential,
use it for like advertising and marketing stuff too, you know?
Yes. And giveaways.
Yeah.
And, go to a Lions game with Eric and that kind of stuff, and have a contest. That's the kind of stuff I was going to do, and now I'm scared if I get these tickets, even if I give them away, if I'm transferring that ticket to someone else, they're monitoring all the transfers.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, we need to know what the rules are, because if you have, let's just say you have 8 home games, you have 2 tickets, so you have 16 tickets for the season.
Yeah.
Well, if you were to transfer it, 1 ticket 8 times, that would make sense, because you're transferring it to whoever's going with you.
Yep.
Right? I mean, that makes perfect sense, does it not?
Yep.
So, okay, what's the rule then if you transfer it those 8 times, and then, well, maybe it gets transferred another 4 times because those individuals couldn't go, or whatever? Or what happens if you transfer it to somebody and then that person sells it?
Yeah.
What if you gave it away for free, but then that person sold it and it wasn't your fault? I just think it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, because let's say I give away, I do a contest for a ticket for all 8 games, right? And I give away my 2 preseason games, all of them, right? And these people that I give them to, that they're not paying a dime for, turn around and sell those tickets. I have no ability to stop them from selling those tickets, putting them on Ticketmaster or wherever. Once they're theirs, they're theirs. And then on the other side of it, if I was to keep all these tickets on my phone, and the people have to be in line with me, and I'm, one after the other, beep, 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 going through the gates. All right, that's fine. But let's say one of my buddies is running behind and I needed to transfer him the ticket.
Right.
Does that count against me because he's at the other side of the stadium and he didn't know where to meet me at?
Exactly. Yeah. I'm talking about Davante Adams. Obviously, we're getting right into the crux of free agency. Everything kind of spun out of control yesterday. Tags didn't happen. But what did happen was a lot of cuts. And with Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers now back on the market, I don't know if Aaron plays this year. I mean, there's a possibility that there's going to be a team that wants his services. I think that he's going to have to concede some money in order to do that. But Devontae Adams still has a ton of life left. And so it wasn't the Vikings that I heard. I apologize. It was the Packers that what Shefty said, that there could be a reunion with the Packers. That sucks for the Lions, right? Devontae still has a lot of life left in those legs, and clearly a big-time playmaker, the number one wide receiver right now on the market. But I'm actually more concerned that if he goes to the Chiefs, what that does for Patrick Mahomes. I mean, that makes them an instant Super Bowl favorite, probably top 3 with the Eagles, the Lions, the Commanders, probably all in the top 4 in my book right now as Super Bowl contenders. So Devontae Adams to the Chiefs is scary, like scary, because that actually works. And Andy Reid's the type of coach that would probably bring him in. Now they brought in who's a rookie they got last year. Oh my goodness, who's the rookie they got last year? Worthy. Yeah, Worthy had a great season. Now imagine stacking Worthy with Devontae Adams, and now you have 2 legit guys on the outside that hardly any team's going to be able to defend. Talent like that. And if you've got a guy like Kelsey that's willing to redo his contract a little bit, I'm sure Patty Mahomes would redo his contract a little bit to make sure that you could bring him in. So I think that the rumor mill, being started to the Chiefs, I'm putting some weight on that one. I think that there's some legitimacy to that actually happening, I think. What are your thoughts before we get on to the next subject?
Everything I've seen online is that he wants to go to the West Coast and play with the Rams.
Yeah, I mean, hey, West Coast, East Coast, who cares, right? I think that if you put him on a squad that can win, Kansas City's Midwest. I mean, it's a Midwest, West Coast team, I guess. Yeah. Right? There's nothing wrong with playing in KC. It's warm down there. I think it'd be a great reunion or a great addition to the Chiefs roster. I just don't like it, as the Lions are going to have to obviously take the Chiefs down, potentially, in the Super Bowl. I can't remember. Do we have Chiefs on the schedule this year? I don't think we do.
Yes.
We do, don't we?
Yes. Shit. We basically play all the playoff teams from last year.
Yeah, it's, we had a tough schedule this last season. We had eight teams that were playoff teams.
It's all of our road games are super tough, and all of our home games are like, that's the easy games, is the home games. So
well, thank God we're good on the road.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you've got some information here on Saquon Barkley. What happened, and how is this going to affect Jahmyr Gibbs?
So Saquon Barkley, after recording a record-breaking 2024 season with the Eagles, culminating in a Super Bowl win, has signed a 2-year, $41.2 million extension. This makes him the NFL's highest paid running back of all time, with nearly all but $5 million guaranteed and potential for $15 million in incentives. His breakout season in Philadelphia followed a tumultuous period with the Giants marked by contract disputes. This is just crazy.
It's crazy money.
And I think this is partially due to Brad Holmes.
Uh-oh. What did Brad do?
Brad picked Jahmyr Gibbs, number 12 overall.
Yeah.
And now you're seeing all sorts of teams getting back into the top of the first round and drafting running backs again. After Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs were drafted, you're starting to see a resurgence in the running back again. And now you have this big move by Saquon Barkley getting cut and then going to a rival for nothing, and then having one of the best seasons ever. He broke the record for the most yards in a season and playoffs together. I think, what did he have? Almost 2,500 yards, or right around 2,500,
something like that.
He smashed it. And he could have had the rushing record. He could have had well over 2,000 something yards, whatever the record is, like 2,200 yards or something.
Right.
And he could have had the record, but he didn't play the final week because he wanted a Super Bowl. And what did he get? He got a Super Bowl. Well, now what could this mean for the Detroit Lions in the next season or two when it comes to Jahmyr Gibbs? What if Gibbs eclipses his 2024 season in 2025, goes out and has an amazing season? Could Gibbs be the next big contract for the Lions and the NFL at the running back position?
So that's what I was pointing at this morning was, okay, you know, we're in a situation as Lions fans, right? Just talking about NFL news or Lions news, we're in a situation as a fan thinking that, you know, we're going to be able to keep all these players. We're not. And quite honestly, and I hate to even say this, finding a running back and getting production is a lot easier than finding a defensive end or finding a defensive tackle or finding a cornerback. It's much easier to get production out of a running back and a wide receiver versus any other position, I believe, on the field. That's why I think you'll see those positions swapped out a little bit more in Detroit. I'm not saying that the Lions are going to move off of Jahmyr Gibbs. I think that would be catastrophic, but I also believe that the Lions are going to be up a hill quickly, you know what I mean, or up a creek, you know, quickly without any paddles. When you're looking at Jahmyr Gibbs possibly getting an extension after year 3, is probably not going to happen. Like, there's no way that we're going to be able to do that and pay him. The market was just reset. And are you going to tell me that Saquon Barkley is that much better than Jahmyr Gibbs? I mean, he's splitting carries and he's still crushing it. Over 20 touchdowns last season. So you give Jahmyr Gibbs more of the responsibility and he'll do Saquon Barkley numbers or get really close to it. So his value is diminished because he's in a split backfield. And that could be an angle that Brad Holmes takes into the negotiating room where he says, hey, you're only getting half the carries. Can't pay you $20 million. I could pay you 12, 13, but I can't pay you 20. And that's where the agent's going to stand up and say, okay, well, I guess we're going to go to a team that's going to give us the rock more often. And they'll probably pay us 20. So these are the funny negotiations that go on, right? Players obviously want what they're owed. They deserve every penny that they get. Jahmyr has been exceptional so far through the first couple of seasons. But these are the types of contracts that are going to hurt the Lions in the future because we have a player of our own to re-sign in Jahmyr Gibbs. Thankfully, I mean, you have 5 years of control on him. And, you know, next year is only year 3. Yes, you can start talking extension. And, you know, the Lions could put a sweetener in the deal. They could make him a little bit more happy. Thankfully, he, you know, had a first round number 12, you know, pick kind of contract, which, I mean, it's not like it's a small contract, but this guy gets one shot at the NFL, and running backs are probably some of the most oft injured and exit the NFL probably the quickest. So when you find a running back that is in the league more than 5, 6, 7 years, it's kind of rare, you know, but splitting the backfield will help Jahmyr stay in the league longer. Maybe he won't seek to be the most expensive paid, you know, running back. But I do believe the Lions are going to backfill and add a running back. If they can, they'll probably do it this year. You know, we might see Craig Reynolds walk in free agency if the Lions are considering grabbing a running back in this draft, which honestly, with these later draft picks, you know, late into the 3rd round, early 4th round, that's where you might be able to find some really good value. I think Omarion Hampton comes to mind right now. And he could be some really good value for the Lions. No, I'm sorry, not Omarion Hampton.
I need to look at that list again and find a complete list of every draftee that the Lions talked to at the combine.
I have the list, so I have a whole spreadsheet on it.
All right.
Yeah. What did you want to know?
Oh, I need to get a copy of that sometime.
Yeah. Let me finish it, and I'll send it to you. I'll send you this sheet for sure.
Okay.
The running backs that we spoke to, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I was just wondering which running backs we talked to.
That was Treshaun Ward.
Okay. And
Treshaun Ward. He's definitely later. Definitely later. Omarion Hampton's a end of the 1st round, early 2nd round pick. I didn't mean to say Omarion Hampton. But yeah, I mean, so a guy like Treshaun Ward, you know, Cam Scatterbo, you could probably end up with Cam Scatterbo, you know, somewhere in the 3rd round potential. Depends on how many people have him, you know, high, or Quinshon Judkins. He's another one that comes to mind. There's definitely some later round guys that'll be available for the Lions this year if they decide to go that direction. So last night I did the old mock my draft, right? On Monday on a Tuesday.
Yep.
And I don't know if you were around or listened to it at all, but
for about 45 minutes of it I was in.
And then as soon as I traded Kirby, you're like, all right, screw this dude, I'm out.
No, as soon as Curse of Oak Island came on, I had to watch that before I went to bed.
That show is still going?
Dude, it's my favorite show of all time. It's the most awesome treasure hunt ever. They find super cool stuff. I don't care what anybody says, man. They have found some cool stuff. They're getting close.
Yeah, well, they've been getting close for years. I used to watch that show all the time.
I love it.
It's funny.
I love it. It's so people either love it or hate it.
Yeah, I can understand. It's because they always get close, and then it's
okay. So everybody in the chat, what do you guys think? Do you love Oak Island or do you hate it? I want to know. Let me know.
So let me just run through what I did last night real quick, and then I want to get into a couple more points here. So obviously, I think the Lions are going to trade back. Like, that's been my plan since day one. That's the projection, at least, that I put in, was a trade back. I've been talking about it for a long time, that I think it makes a lot more sense in this draft. Probably 6 weeks ago or so, I thought that this was going to be a really deep draft for defensive line. Everyone else was saying it was a weak draft for defensive line. And then the tide changed, or the tide came in and everybody saw that it is a deep draft. And everyone started jumping on the train of the Lions should probably trade back. And why it makes sense is because if a team like New York, the Giants, if they don't take a quarterback at 3, I feel like they're a team that would want to trade back into the first round to at least grab a quarterback and have 5 years of control to see if that player can develop. And or, a team like the Browns, if they go with Abdul Carter and not a quarterback, they may want to trade back into the first round. Hell, even the Titans, if they decide to not take Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, and maybe they trade their pick back already to start the day and end up with an offensive lineman or, another playmaker, they may want to trade back into the back end of the first round. So these are all scenarios that I've been mulling over for quite a while now, and I think that there's more credibility to it now after we've been through the combine. What we see on tape is now starting to match up with what I've seen, at the combine, and what I've watched, since I've been home, watching the tape a little bit, deeper, watching more of the combine performances from some of these players. The offensive line group went from a strength to T-Rex syndrome city, where there's a lot of short arms. So there's a lot more guards in this draft than there are tackles, which I think is going to shake up the top of this draft. Whereas Will Campbell was, a top 5, top 8 pick, he may slide into the middle of the round or maybe out of the first round completely. And you might see Armand Membu and, some of the other, bigger name tackles slide up. And, you got Josh Simmons, Josh Connerly. I think all those guys are probably going to be taken in the first round, or at least have a high likelihood to. So I went Cam Ward number 1 to the Titans. I didn't do any trades until I got to the Lions. So I did Cam Ward number 1, Abdul Carter number 2. I'll just go down the list. Travis Hunter, Armand Membu to the Patriots, Mason Graham to the Jags, Shedeur Sanders to the Raiders, Jahdae Barron to the Jets, James Pierce to the Panthers, wide receiver McMillan to the Saints, Ashton Genty to the Bears. That one, I think you can lock it in. I think that pick probably makes the most sense for the Bears. They want their Jahmyr Gibbs, and when you look at Ashton Genty, he's going to be the next special back in the league. Donovan Ezeraku, I've been pronouncing his name wrong this whole time, but Ezeraku, this guy was like 40th ranked. He's in the top 50, but everyone had him in the mid-second round, even as high as like pick 45. He's flying up the boards now. I knew that 4 or 5 weeks ago watching this tape. You could not love this kid. Long arms, great decision maker. I feel like he's slippery when he gets engaged, and he's able to get off of blocks and get after the quarterback. Very instinctual, getting after the running back. I really like what he does. I think he's going to be a San Francisco 49er potential. I mean, there's other defensive ends or linebackers that could go in that area, but I do believe there's some potential he could get taken as high as number 11 to San Francisco. Mike Green, if everything clears with Mike Green, Dallas makes some sense. That's where I put him. Emeka Egbuka, I put him with the Dolphins because they're going to need some help in the wide receiver room, obviously with, Hill and that situation. Tyler Warren to the Colts. I think that Anthony Richardson needs some help. I think he needs a target. I think he needs a blocker, and Tyler Warren fits that. Jod Campbell to the Falcons. I don't know of a better place for him to land than the Falcons. I think that's a perfect mock right now. Josh Simmons, so starting with some of the tackles, slipping all the way to 16, where we start to see some offensive linemen go to the Cardinals. Obviously, Kyler Murray needs some help. Derek Harmon, one of the first defensive tackles off the board, going to the Bengals. Quite simply, they just cut Sheldon Rankins, and they lost DJ Reader, a season ago. Now they've lost Rankins. They're going to be looking at defensive line. I can almost guarantee it with the way that this draft is set up. They're probably going to take a couple. Michael Williams going to the Seahawks, Jelon Walker going to the Bucks, and then your Detroit Lions. So this is what I did. You guys that weren't in last night, some of the people last night were saying, why didn't you use JMO as trade bait as opposed to Kirby? And every time I mention the word JMO, Eric, you know this, I get crucified because people are like, no, JMO can't do no wrong, and JMO's the future. And again, remember, you can get wide receiver help and production a lot easier than you can at other positions. It's not the same to be said for safety, though. And I do respect Kirby. I do respect how hard he's worked and the type of player he is. But from a business end of things, if I'm looking at a player that would make the most sense to trade, yeah, it could be JMO. It absolutely could be. And it also could be Kirby, because next year you'd have to pay Branch. That's not going to work out. You can't afford both. We know that. There's just no way you can. And I doubt that they're going to walk away from Branch. So I put Kirby on the trade block to the Broncos, where I did a similar mock to Minkah Fitzpatrick. Someone mentioned Jamal Adams. I think it's another comp, right, to mock against, but I think that was a little too rich. I still don't understand how they were able to pull off a couple of first-round picks for Jamal Adams. But be that as it may, I have the Lions moving up to number 20, finagled a few, picks in there, forced to trade. Shamar Stewart goes to the Lions at number 20, but the Lions don't lose pick 28 in this scenario. They retain it simply by giving Kirby a second-round pick and a fourth-round pick evaluation. I think that it makes sense with the way that I laid it up there. You're really essentially getting a first-round pick for him, but you're getting a second and a fourth as well. So Matthew Golden went to the Pittsburgh Steelers. That one has me a little bit mystified right now with what's going to happen with the Steelers. I think that they're going to try to get a deal done with Justin Fields sooner rather than later. And if they don't, you might see an Aaron Rodgers end up in Pittsburgh. You might see Sam Darnold end up in Pittsburgh. Colston Loveland, second tight end, reuniting with Jim Harbaugh. I thought that one made a lot of sense. And then Nick Scorton, third major edge off the board here, going to Green Bay. I don't think that there's any doubt in my mind that Green Bay is going to do one of two things. Edge, or they're going to go after Amenawari. I think the Amenawari as a safety makes a lot of sense for Green Bay, especially at pick 23, or they're going to go after edge, Nick Scorton, or whomever's available if Shamar Stewart's still there. Kenneth Grant goes to the Vikings. Calvin Banks, another tackle, goes to the Texans. Luther Burden goes to LA. Will Johnson goes to the Ravens. Jalen Milroe. So this is where the Lions trade back out of the first round. The New York Giants trade up with Detroit at 28. The Lions then take over I think it's pick 34. And Jalen Milroe or Jackson Dart, haven't decided yet, ends up in New York. Gray Zel, though. The Lions miss out on Gray Zel. I don't like it. I would rather stay to 28 taking Gray Zel if he was there. And I think Brad Holmes would. Honestly, I don't think he would trade back out. But then again, sometimes you can't turn away extra draft picks early in the process. Walter Nolan goes to the Bills. Josh Connolly goes to the Chiefs. And then Alec Iomanor goes to the Eagles. Now, to finish that whole scenario out, the Lions then selected. Hold on here. The Lions then selected Nick Amenawari at pick 34. So the method to my madness here is getting one of the best defensive ends out of the draft in Shamar Stewart, and then also doubling down and replacing Kirby, who also can become that next generational type of safety. I think he's going to have a Cam Chancellor chance in the NFL. Very similar body style, body type, play style. I mean, at 6'3", 220 pounds, whatever he is, this dude is an absolute animal, and he's going to be a box safety that is going to be able to help out our linebacker room. And I think that's another way you can help out the linebacker room is bringing a guy like that in. So what are your thoughts on any of that, Eric? And then we'll move on to another topic.
All right. First of all, people wanting to trade JMO.
Yeah.
How sick would you be? Let's say we trade him to Denver. Let's say we trade JMO to Denver. They don't want Kirby. They want JMO. How sick would you feel when JMO goes off for 1,500 yards and 15 touchdowns, is an all-pro and a Pro Bowler, and goes to an AFC championship game with the Broncos with Bo Nix? I would be sick to my stomach every time I saw JMO catching another touchdown and another highlight on ESPN every Monday morning. It would make me sick to my stomach knowing we had that guy in the Lions and he should still be with the Lions.
It's part of the process, though. And, you know, honestly, Bo Nix and JMO, man, that makes a whole lot of sense. And you've got the Sean Payton connection there, so you know that there's conversations that are happening all the time. And, you know, I'm sure they've tossed around some names back and forth. You know, what would you do if I did this type of thing? Now, yesterday, Adam Schefter made a comment, and someone else made a comment that, you know, like Brad Holmes, obviously the GMs throughout the league, they're very close vested on all free agents. They're very close vested on any conversations. Nobody knows it. And quite simply, the only person that knows what is happening with these people, with these players, these potentials, are going to be the insiders. They're going to be the first ones to really hear it. So there's going to be a lot of clickbait coming out over the next week. We're going to do speculation instead. I'm not going to do clickbait. We're going to do speculation. So if you don't click because I didn't clickbait you, well, that's your fault. But you're going to get good, valuable information in all the videos coming out. So yesterday was kind of weird, Eric. We'll talk about this for a brief second. Only 2 players franchise tagged.
Yeah.
And this is the lowest number that have been tagged since 1994.
Wow.
Last season, we had, the NFL had 8, I believe, that were tagged. And only 2 yesterday. But something else replaced tag day. And that was cut day. So walk us through what happened with cut day yesterday.
Yeah, so let's take a look at some of the cuts from yesterday. I'm just going to go through the list, and then let's discuss who we think might be fits for the Detroit Lions. So first up, you have Carolina Panthers cornerback Dane Jackson. The Chicago Bears let go of tight end Gerald Everett. The Cincinnati Bengals let go of defensive tackle Sheldon Rankins and guard Alex Kappa. There's a couple of positions we're looking for. The Miami Dolphins let go of running back Raheem Mostert, tight end Durham Smythe, and cornerback Kendall Fuller. Now, the New England Patriots let go of linebacker Sione Takiati. And then the New Orleans Saints let go of former Detroit Lion running back Jamal Williams. The New York Jets let go of Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams yesterday. The Philadelphia Eagles let go of Darius Slay and James Bradberry. I never thought I'd see that day. 2 of their cornerbacks, they let them go. Pittsburgh Steelers let go of linebacker Preston Smith, who once played with the Green Bay Packers. And then San Francisco 49ers let go of linebacker Demetrius Flanagan Fowles. And then last but not least, the Seattle Seahawks let go of offensive tackle George Fant, safety Rayshon Jenkins, defensive lineman Draymond Jones, and defensive tackle Roy Robertson Harris. So, Will, based on the cuts, which of these players do you think would make the most sense for the Detroit Lions?
Well, I know we were talking off air a little bit about this, and honestly, when you look at this list so far, I came up with 2. There might be a case for another one, but I came up with 2. And I think the first one that I'm going to roll with here, the first one I'm going to roll with is Sheldon Rankins. So it's interesting that the Bengals went to this, degree, obviously, to cut Sheldon, but I think that we need to understand what happened. He had a disaster of a season. There was some weird illness that he ended up getting. Let me pull this back up. So last season, he missed the final 7 games of the year because he had some weird viral illness. And he was placed on the reserve non-football illness list through, basically the rest of the season, I guess is what I'm seeing. So they obviously released him yesterday, or they're going to plan on cutting him. And he hadn't practiced since November 15th of last year. So the question is, how healthy is he? Did he maintain his body weight? Where is he at right now? No one knows where he's at as far as, is he able to play? Did this illness, hurt his career because maybe he lost a bunch of weight? So the answer for me is I don't know, right? I don't know what's going on with Sheldon. But I would say this, placing him on the NFI list and missing a majority of the season. I think he had a couple of, small injuries in the beginning of the year. You might have missed a game or two, but he was still one of the top defensive tackles in the league. He was a nine-year player last year. He played in 7 games last season, all starts. He had 18 tackles with 1 sack, but he signed a 2-year deal at $24.5 million. Obviously, the Bengals did not get fulfilled on that end of the bargain, but it was nothing short of a disaster for him last year and for the Bengals. I mean, they've got a lot going on with Higgins and Hendrickson, now Rankins. They lost Reeder. Now, before he was struck with this mysterious illness, he also missed time, like I said, to a hamstring injury. And if the Bengals obviously are moving away from him now, they're not going to save a ton. I think they save about $9.5 million. I mean, that is a pretty good chunk of change against the cap next season. But they'll take on a $2 million dead cap hit this season. I think that it was right for the Bengals to do this because they're trying to get things done with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Trey Hendrickson and others. But this does leave a very valuable defensive tackle on the open market. And I think it makes a lot of sense for the Lions that if you're looking to bring somebody in to help fill this void of a Lee McNeil, and we talk about having a proven commodity, right? Someone that's done it in the NFL, a vet, hopefully a good locker room guy. I don't have a background on him. I don't hear anything negative about him. But I think that this is a Brad Holmes kind of a deal. Injury, not so much. The illness wiped him out. Well, you can get healthy. You can add weight again as long as there's no long-standing recovery issue for him. I think that Sheldon Rankins would make a very good 1-year deal in Detroit. At most, a 2-year, $20 million deal, or a 1-year, $9.5, $10 million deal makes a lot of sense for me. When you look at the deal that DJ Reader has from the Lions, there's no reason why you'd want to walk away from Reader, only add to it. Reader and Rankins and McNeil as your starting 3 when McNeil gets back, that's a great rotation already. And then you add in a rookie this year that can then take place of Rankins next year and Reader next year, or you add 2 rookies this year that can take place of both of those guys. Well, then that drops off your cap for next year. You don't have to worry about paying another 10, 20, $25 million for 2 guys. I think that makes a lot of sense. So Sheldon Rankins, obviously the Lions should have interest here, but I think there's still some unanswered questions as to what this illness actually was and how did it affect his future as a football player. Some of his stats. Now, in 2023, he produced 6 sacks as a defensive tackle, 37 tackles, 29 solo. Look, that's great production. It's great production out of the interior of the defensive line. And I think that when you look at what defenses are winning in the NFL, well, exact thing that I've been saying about interior pressure, building your front 4 is what I've been pounding my chest about. I know everyone talks about edge rushers and pass rush. It's the interior. The reason why the Eagles won that game or multiple games is because the interior of their defense is so damn good. You can't look at it any other direction and say that it was the edge rush that won the Super Bowl for the Eagles. It was all of them, but the interior, getting after the quarterback, pushing the pocket, forcing the quarterback to go outside, that's what won. It's break that center link, right? Break the center link and that chain. You can't put it back together. The minute you break through the center of that offensive line, all bets are off. Then everybody else can do their job. So for me, it's continue to pound the middle of the defense, get stronger. I'd love to get younger with some rookies, but also bring in another proven vet. I hope that Rankins is doing okay, and I think he'd be a good fit. Definitely production is there. It's there. It's been there. He's a little older, but I feel like he's still got some wear and tear that he can give. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think he's the perfect stopgap because
it's a good choice of words.
Listen, and I think DJ Reader's the same. DJ Reader, we give him a 2-year contract. This year will be the last year of that 2-year contract. Last year was him getting healthy again and proving himself that he can still play in the league. And this year is more of his prove it year. So it's great for him. He gets a chance to prove it that he still got it and he can go to another team. And then for the Detroit Lions, they get a proven commodity for this season while they're working in the rookies. And I do believe we need 1 or 2 rookie defensive tackles and an edge and possibly a corner. We need a lot of defense this year. I don't think Brad is going to be caught like he was last year with his pants down when it came to depth on the defense. Now, I know, 23.
Well, hold on. Did we get caught with our pants down?
Kind of.
We lost 30 players.
I know. So
how many more pants can you put on?
If you took the Detroit Lions and rewind back to week 18 and the first playoff game, the divisional round, if the Lions had the exact same amount of health on defense that the Philadelphia Eagles had, I guarantee we'd be having a much, much, much different conversation this last couple of weeks.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
So I don't think Brad was off the mark. I think he built an extremely good defense. But broken bones and broken jaws and broken legs are what derailed everything for us. So I don't think we're that far off, but preparing a little extra just in case we get some more of these injuries in the next season, I think that's what he's going to be a little more cautious about his deep defensive depth this year with how unlucky we were last year with health.
Yeah, health's a big one. Obviously, you got to have some good guys in rotation. I like Rankins. I mean, again, you might be able to get him cheaper.
Yeah.
He's a little undersized for me at 6'2" and maybe only 305 pounds. I prefer a 6'3.5", maybe a little bit taller. Has to have the arm length, but 310, 315, I guess if you're at the 295 to 305 weight class, as long as you're more of a pass rush style of defensive tackle versus the run stuffing style defensive tackle, then it makes sense being at a little bit lighter weight at 305. It's kind of like Lee McNeil's a little bit lighter because they view him as more of a pass rush style of a DT, whereas DJ Reader is your run stuffer. Broderick Martin is your run stuffer. So when we're looking at replacing, a Lee McNeil right now, that's where you've got the similar comp to Sheldon Rankins to kind of slide in and take his position until, obviously Aleem is healthy. So to me, that makes a lot of sense. Obviously you have other guys on the field that can help in run support, but I don't think he's that bad in the run support. So the second guy.
Yep.
Second guy. Actually, let me see if I've got this prepared here.
And one more thing on Rankins, he was brought in to be the replacement in Cincinnati for DJ Reader.
Yeah.
So I think he makes a lot of sense coming to the Lions for 1 year.
So James Bradberry. Now, this is a guy that I've spoken about before. We'll get there. So James Bradberry obviously released. Now, this is someone that I've spoken about before that was a decent fit for the Lions. It was just a year or so ago before he ended up as an Eagle. Now, last year was kind of not only an odd year for him, but it was a down year for him. And the reason why is I think it's more explained like this. He was among the best cornerbacks in the league during 2022. And then he was among the worst in 2023. He had a 51.6 defensive passer rating allowed in 22, which was second among all corners. And that's when I was hot to trot after James Bradberry. The next year, we started 10 games. Then he had a 114.3 rating in 2023, which was 55th best out of 61 corners. Polar opposite seasons for James. Now he started in 10 games in 2023. But then he suffered a torn tendon or a tendon injury in his lower leg, obviously, during practice. Now, the injury didn't require surgery, and then he was expected to miss at least, 4 games if he was placed on injured reserve. And then he was considered to be a candidate to be released at final roster cuts heading out of summer. But he stuck around. And Bradberry was practicing exclusively with the safeties and was set to serve as the top backup for that position group when he came back. But now in 25, when he comes back, he wants to go back to being a corner. He doesn't want to be a safety, but he does have positional versatility, which we know is check mark for Brad Holmes. He also said that he feels, like a Super Bowl champion, even though he didn't get an opportunity to play. He never really played a snap in 2024. He's healthy. He's recovered. But to me, this is your Emmanuel Moseley replacement. This is that high risk, high reward type of player, a guy that has been one of the better corners in the league for a long time, had a down year, had an injury year, and then he was stuffed down on an Eagles roster because look at what they did. I mean, they bring in, you have Quinn and Mitchell, you had Darius Slay, you had Cooper DeJean. I mean, they were stacked. Where was he going to fit? They didn't expect Cooper DeJean and Quinn and Mitchell to have the season that they did. They expected James Bradberry to be a big part of that. So he wasn't needed. So it's not so much that he can't play. It's just he couldn't get back onto the roster because there wasn't any room. Now, he could be, like I said, that next Moseley type of a signing where high upside, cheap 1-year deal, contender deal, right? He has a Super Bowl ring now, or will, technically, but I'm sure he would love to play for one. And by all accounts, I think that Bradberry was a terrific teammate behind the scenes this year and a mentor to not only Quinn and Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. But let's listen to what he had to say here.
And I was glad the guys went out there and played well. And like I said before, I'm a Super Bowl champion. Can't nobody take that away from me.
James, I don't know if a lot of veterans would have handled this season the way you did. Why did you treat it the way you did?
At the end of the day, this is a business, and you got to treat it like a business. And I put my business hat on.
What's ahead for you?
I'm gonna go to the parade tomorrow. Go have fun with my teammates, my friends, and then go from there. Really, see whatever comes up. It's kind of an unknown situation for me right now.
You're a prideful guy. We've known you for 3 years. Do you feel like you have something to show the league still?
Oh, for sure. So that's why I'm eager to get back out there, showcase what I can do.
Look, I don't think he said it any better than that. I mean, he wants to get back. He feels like he can still play. But like I said, by all accounts, he was a great teammate during the year. And, he was released, obviously, just a day after they released Darius Slay. And it was a surprise to no one, according to this article here by Embassy Sports Philadelphia. Ian Rappaport obviously confirmed and reported on Tuesday that the Eagles will release Bradberry, who's 31 years old, as a June 1 designation. So he'll split his dead money between 24 and 25. They'll carry his full cap figure of $5.19 million through June 1. Now, he didn't play in 24, but he will count a total of $10.8 million in dead money, according to Spotrac. $3 million in 25, $7.7 million in 26. This move will also clear only $2.1 million in cap space in 2025. Obviously, the Eagles have a lot of players they're trying to get re-signed, and that front four is the most important. Now, here's a quote where Bradberry said, "I'm glad I got to experience the Philadelphia Eagles fan base. He said that it's the greatest fan base in the world. I disagree. Like, I know we have the greatest, but that's okay, James. No big deal. He also said, I'm glad I got to experience the highs and the lows of being part of the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm going to always cherish these moments that I have. I'm just thankful that it ended with a Super Bowl ring. Now, like I said, he was the best, one of the best, cornerbacks in 22, had a down year in 23, but here we go. Rookies like Quinnen Mitchell and Cooper DeJean in the mix. The Eagles obviously moved Barry to safety. They just didn't have room for him. So he got hurt late in training camp, spent the season on IR at 31 years old. He's done with the Eagles. He had, 4 interceptions, 2 tackles for loss, 30 pass breakups, 98 tackles in 33 games. He says that, he'll get his ring. He can always say that he's a Super Bowl champ. That's great. He was a part of it. But now it's, what did he do while he was on the field, right? Or while he wasn't on the field? He was a leader behind the scenes. And I think that when you look at the guys that Brad Holmes loves, it's positional versatility, number one. Good locker room guys, is the most important thing, the culture and the identity fit. But also the guys that can teach, right? The guys that can mentor, the guys that can also play the game. He was saying, quote, I was telling them all throughout the season, and of course I'm telling them now, I'm probably going to tell them tomorrow, lock my number in, and don't get bougie and act like a superstar and text me back. That was kind of funny when I read that for the first time. But by all accounts, again, everyone's been saying that this guy has been nothing but a consummate pro. He's been nothing but an excellent help to his teammates. And that's what I would expect out of a Detroit Lion, is that when, you're down and out and you can't get in the game, that you're still helping these guys succeed. And you're still giving them an opportunity to learn from you, one of the better corners in the league. So what is it going to cost? That's probably the next biggest question. What is it going to cost to bring in a James Bradberry, probably on a 1-year deal, a 1-year, I call them contender deals now. I'm done with this word called prove it, because the Lions are contenders. So when you're going to bring in guys like James Bradberry or older vets that are looking for a home to go try to latch on and win a ring with, that's my new nickname for these deals. It's a 1-year contender deal. If you can get them for that $8 million range, for a single season, yeah, I think you do it. If CD3 walks and we don't retain him, this is the kind of guy you bring in that can play opposite of Terry and Arnold and not have to have the number one responsibility. You still have Amik Robertson that he's going to have to beat out. But I love that room growing with a James Bradberry, Amik Robertson, and a Terry and Arnold. And then you've got Ennis Rakestraw waiting to get his opportunity as well. Competition is important. And I think that the Detroit Lions are going to be all about competition here in free agency. So James Bradberry, I think that there's a chance. Outside chance, but it's still a chance. Eric, what do you think?
To me, I kind of think Bradberry would fit the mold of a Brad Holmes injured player that is on the mend and ready to bring in. But I don't know if it's just a disdain for Philadelphia players or what, but I don't know. To me, he just seems like that he gave it all he had, and great locker room guy and everything. But I think the Lions are on a little bit more of a youth kick than Bradberry. How old is Bradberry?
I think he's going to be 31 this year, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, if he's over the 30 fresh threshold for a corner, you'd have to probably make him a safety.
I think he can still play the game.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he can still play the game, but last year was an injury. It wasn't anything but an injury that kept him out. So, what about Darius Slay? He's 36 and he's 35. He's still playing the game.
Yeah.
So if you want a Darius Slay, then you gotta.
Well, that's something we haven't really dipped our toes into on the morning show here. Darius Slay, what do you guys think in the chat? I'm
100% out.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, I love this story.
I mean, I said the other day that I was okay with it if it's a super cheap deal, and yeah, there is some interest obviously by Darius Slay, but it have to be a super cheap contender deal, right? It's not for anything but you're coming here to help win a Super Bowl. You're not trying to resurrect your career. Like, Slay should be retiring at this point.
Yeah.
35, 36-year-old corners, that doesn't make sense. But 30, 31, whatever Bradberry is, I mean, that's not extremely old. I mean, you've got the Marshawn Lattimore's and, the other style of players like that are still playing at a high level. And I don't know if there's any decline. I mean, he had a great season the season before in 22. He had a slide off in 23. I mean, his production was still there. I think that there's some real opportunity. He's 31. So he'll be 32. He'll be 32 this season.
In my opinion, though, I would rather take that money that I would spend on them and put it towards Carlton Davis. I would rather get Carlton Davis back if possible.
Yeah, I think that's the number one choice too. But Carlton's probably looking at a 3-year, $50 million deal.
Yes. So
Brad's not going to do that.
I may have another guy that may fit the mold that might be a Brad Holmes guy.
I can't play anymore, Eric. I'm done. I'm done. I can't do it.
So I'm going to go down to my next guy on the list here. So could the Lions sign a free agent that Brad wanted to draft in 2021? Back in 2021, it was Brad Holmes' first draft, and it was coming off the COVID year where there was no combine. Well, according to A to Z Sports, Brad had his eyes on Florida State cornerback Asante Samuel, but missed out on the prized cornerback. Well, now, if the Detroit Lions decide to move on from Carlton Davis, Samuel will be a free agent next Monday. Brad Holmes has no issue taking injured players who he thinks are on the mend. The reason you get a bit of a discount on a good corner here is that Samuel is coming off of a season where he played just 4 games. He was added to the injured reserve list with a shoulder injury in October. His previous 2 seasons with the Chargers were very good. Samuel had 11 picks combined in those 2 seasons and was a top 5 corner in pass breakups in both seasons. If the Lions went this way, it would allow them to start both Samuel and Terrion on the outside, put Amik back in the slot, and then make Branch a safety again. This is one player to definitely keep an eye on going into free agency. Now, Samuel has 4 years of experience, and he's 25 years old. His market value, according to Spotrac, average salary $11.4 million, and his cornerback ranking is 15.
So, cornerback rating is 15. Where did that come from?
That was off the Spotrac, I believe.
Huh. Well, he didn't have the greatest of grades last year. I mean, he was
only played 4 games.
Yeah, and you can't really flush out what he would have done with only 4 games. I mean, it's probably less than 200 snaps, right?
Yeah, you're just getting rolling.
So, if we go back and look at 2023, his coverage grade was actually really good. He was a top 33 corner. Overall, he was a top 32, right at 32. Run defense was okay. Pass rush, nobody cares about pass rush for a corner. I don't even know why they list that. It's the dumbest stat ever. 2022, again, he was about average in coverage. My question is, okay, so where's he coming from? The Chargers?
Yeah. Yep. And this was his rookie contract. Just got over. He played all 4 seasons for the Chargers.
Let's see. I didn't do any work on this, so I'm going to try to do it on the fly.
Yeah, and according to a few people like A to Z, Brad had his eyes on Asante Samuel back in that original draft and wanted to draft him, but they just had other needs.
Which original draft?
In his original draft, the first 2020 or 2021 draft, yeah.
21 for the Lions?
Yeah.
We didn't bring in Asante Samuel, did we? For a visit?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm wondering how Peyton would know that he had his eyes on him unless we brought him in for a visit.
Yeah, I don't know.
Interesting. So what I'm trying to find here is the man press stats or man defensive stats for the Chargers. And I'm not finding it right away. So that's what I need to know. I need to know how much man he plays. You know, where does he project? Is he more of a is he a press corner, or is he, you know, is he off man? Like what is he? Is he a zone corner? I'd have to watch some tape obviously on him. But
do you think with Kelvin Shepard taking over that he is going to go more to a zone concept or stay with man to man?
No. It's going to still be man heavy. You see the problem with that, and you know, you hear people talk about, well, the Lions are going to change everything. No, they won't. They can't. When you draft players for the scheme that you're running and the scheme that you plan on running. Now, when you hire a defensive coordinator, you hire a defensive coordinator that's going to run your scheme, not their scheme. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So if Brad and Dan say we are a man-heavy team, we are a West Coast offense, your coordinators are going to have to fit that. And then all the fingerlings below that to all the other coaches, they're going to have to try to fit that too. I think that coaches can do anything, right? I mean, they can coach it both ways. Some are just better than others at one specific defense or one specific style of offense, but they know just about everything, you would think. A lot of them do anyway. I want to say that it was the first press conference prior to at the combine. Was it at the combine? Might have been one of the first press conferences after the season where Brad said that, or Dan said that they were going to stick to the same thing. Yeah. You know, it's going to stay more man heavy.
But even Aaron Glenn had games where he ran a lot of zone and then some games where he ran a lot of man, you know.
I think that it's going to be a more of a mixture of, you have players doing a little bit of both. So you know, maybe you don't have everybody in man, right? You have this area is more of a zone scheme, you know, or zone under or zone over, and then you've got this guy in a man up, man press, whatever. That happens every day. But Asante Samuel, I don't know enough, but 11.4, that's all they're saying.
Yeah. That's why I thought that was like somebody that no one else is really talking about. And if Brad really did have his eyes on him back in 2021, man, why wouldn't that make a nice little, here you go, you know, because Brad likes to get players, you know, DJ Reader coming off an injury, slide right in. Marcus Davenport coming off an injury, slide right in. You know, unfortunately, he got injured again, but he likes to get these cheaper contracts with players with a higher upside.
I mean, I can tell you right now who he had his eyes on because I have the sheet.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah.
That's information I don't have.
Yeah, dude, you would shit a brick if you saw how much stuff I write. Okay, so 2020, obviously he was with the Rams still. Where's my 21 at? 2020. Where's 21? There's 2017. 2017. I gotta transfer all this over to a new sheet so that it's nice and tight. Where this must be 21. Come on. 21 should be the one at the top, and it's not. Okay, I will have to come back to this. Let me look at it a different way. Okay, so back in 2021... They're going to be way down the list. Here we go. Okay, back in 21, the Lions met with Lee McNeil, Dalen Hayes. There you go, Asante Samuel Jr.
Yeah. Michael Lucci's in the chat says the Lions did meet with Asante Samuel virtually COVID for a pre-draft.
Oh, that was COVID year. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So this was all COVID year.
Yeah, they also met with Jamar Jefferson, Thomas Graham, Brevin Jordan. So here's the funny thing about the COVID year. Like a lot of players that came out of that whole conundrum, like they didn't get the fairest shake, right? Because I mean, even for the next couple of drafts, like I think we have to put some real respect on Brad Holmes' name, because when you look at the players that are coming out of the COVID year, what was that, 2020 into 2021, there was still some limitations on things. These players did not get the full benefit of practice. They didn't get the full benefit of classroom. In classroom, it was all virtual. So there's 2 seasons there where some of these players you don't have enough tape on, you don't have enough work on, because it's not like you're sending scouts out there to watch these guys. Some missed an entire season because they could sit out. And so some of these players missed a whole year, maybe year and a half, 2 years of development. So for Brad to hit the draft the way that he has every single season tells you how locked in he really is. And he did an excellent job navigating all of that. Going back and looking, guess what? Guess what? Guess who's on the list?
Bradberry.
Nope. Even better name.
Sheldon Rankins.
Jamie Sherwood.
Oh yeah, that's that one you liked from yesterday.
Yep. So he met with Jamie and Sherwood and Quinn Miniers. I think Quinn Miniers, he's gone now. I think he's out of the NFL if I'm not mistaken. Maybe not. All right, this Jamie and Sherwood's it's gonna get high on the list. I'll be doing a video about that later, I guess. I brought him in last night in the mock draft. All right, what's next on the list?
All right. So the Detroit Lions, do they have the scoop on one of the offensive linemen, Gray Zel, from North Dakota State University in this year's draft? Well, the new Detroit Lions tight end coach, Tyler Roll, may have some inside information on a lineman in this year's NFL draft. And not from his time at Iowa State. No, instead from his time as an offensive coordinator for North Dakota State University. North Dakota State University has a potential first-round offensive lineman in this year's class in Gray Zel. The Bison left tackle projects better at center or guard in the NFL, but he's a high-end prospect who played under Roll for North Dakota State. To say Zabel is enthusiastic and supportive of what Roll brings to the Lions is a gross understatement. So this is some stuff that Zabel had to say about Mr. Roll. Tyler Roll is my guy. I love that man, he said during the scouting combine. They're getting an unbelievable person, first off. The energy that he has every single day is unbelievable. I don't know how he does it. He doesn't do caffeine, I think, or maybe he does now, but to have that energy every single day is remarkable. And he's a dude that can get you to run through a brick wall just by having a single conversation with him. And then Zabel has met informally with the Lions at both the Senior Bowl and the Combine. Number 28 overall might be a little too early for the talented Zabel, but it's almost unthinkable that he would still be on the board for Detroit's second pick at number 60 overall. What do you think about that?
You know, there's connections. You know, connections have connections, and I think that there's one thing that I've always stood on when we try to do work, and that is connect the dots. Whenever you do an investigative journalism, whenever you're doing research, I guess whenever you're doing anything that you're trying to be transparent with, you got to connect the dots, right? There's a reason why things happen to a certain level in the NFL. There's a reason why certain guys end up on certain teams. There's a reason why certain GMs like a certain style of player. And there's a reason why Brad Holmes continues to bring in the guys that he knows, right? You've got to know these guys. But who does he lean on? Brad Holmes is leaning on the team, the coaches, right? They're the team within the team, the scouts, the coaches, the coordinators. Who do you know? Who do you like? What do you know? Fill my cup up with some information. And Brad takes that, uses it, I'm sure, and then goes and digests it and then finds out his own information, does his own work. And I think that it lends a lot of credibility to the reason why he's getting a lot of things right, because he's utilizing every resource that he has. So Tyler Roll, Shaw, Morton, I mean, I made the assumption and expectation that we would interview some Iowa State guys. I don't think a lot of people thought that these Iowa State guys would get a fair chance in Detroit just because of maybe their talent level's not as high as some of the others, but we've interviewed a couple, and it's because of connections. So Tyler Roll is obviously a connector. He's a dot puncher or dot cross, whatever you want to call it. He's connecting the dots for the Lions right now with some players. Gray Zel, I think he's going to be an excellent tackle in this league. He definitely checks all the boxes. And you're darn right, he is not going to be available at pick 60. If the Lions do not trade up into the top half of round 2, they're going to miss out on a lot. And it could be Gray Zel at 28 that they miss because they're going to take a defensive tackle or linebacker if the right linebacker slips, or more importantly, an edge rusher, that has some ability, beyond what we've seen outside of Aiden. I still like the fact that we have Za'Darius, though. But before I get off and run in another direction, I think that Roll is definitely been instrumental so far in connecting these dots for the Lions.
Yep. And having the inside track on some of these guys, it's just going to pay off in the long run. Whether we draft them or not, when they come to their second contracts, third contracts, and they're possibly a free agent that could come to the Lions, then Brad already has his homework done and already knows all about these guys.
1000%, man. We got 56 likes right now. If you guys do us a huge favor, welcome to the Rise and Grind Morning Show. Appreciate you guys joining us each and every day, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Well, some days it's 8 a.m. Some days it's 8:05 or 8:08 or 8:10. But we try to get in right here at 8 a.m. Please do us a quick favor. Like the stream, share it with a friend, and subscribe to the channel. We're trying to give away a rash of mini helmets from the 2024 stock. I still have like a dozen to give away, and every 100 subscribers, you could win. Just ask anybody in the chat. A lot of them could raise their hand and say that they've won something. They've received it. If they order something, they get it. And this is a great community to be a part of. Probably one of the best chats you're ever going to find for Detroit Lions. There's some other really good chats out there too, but just good, clean energy, conversation. A bunch of good people that are part of this community. And again, you are the best part of this community. We can't do this without you. And all the hard work that we've put in so far is really starting to pay off dividends. And you're going to find out more about that probably in the coming weeks as to just what happened for this show. So anyway, do us a favor, like, share, subscribe. I hate asking, but I'm told I need to beg at least once in a while to make sure that we get the information out. So thank you for joining the Rise and Grind Morning Show. Okay. I was just looking at this list a little bit more.
Yeah.
And there's a couple other names in here. So you got Asante Samuel. You have, oh boy, where did it just go? There's another name in here. I think they're listed multiple times in here, and that's the confusing part. I got to find it multiple times.
Ah, okay.
And I don't know why they did it that way, but I've never seen this site either before, but it kind of broke it down quickly. But anyway, Jamie and Sherwood. So we spoke about him yesterday. Obviously visited with Brad in 2021. And I think that is an incredible, and oh no, breaking news.
Uh-oh.
Let me pull it up.
Joe Thuney just traded to Chicago? Is that what that says?
Is this accurate?
Well,
We're going to find out.
I'll go to Adam Schefter right now and find out. So Adam Schefter. The Bears are trading a 2026 fourth-round pick to the Chiefs for Pro Bowl offensive lineman Joe Thuney, per source.
Well, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
What I'd also like to know is why when I go to I'm trying to get into studio mode here and it's all messed up. It's like all upside down.
Let's see what Ian has to say here. So that's 2 offensive linemen. They are buying their team. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, but you know what's happening though. Here, let me get this in. Let's do it the right way here. You know what's happening though, and I'll explain in just a second, but okay. All right, Eric, let me make sure I have you in here, but there's some breaking news here coming from Ian Rappaport and others that, of course, the screen is not set up right, but sources have the Bears expected to trade for the Chiefs all-pro guard Joe Thuney as Chicago continues to load up on the offensive line. KC obviously gets a bit younger, frees up some money to use elsewhere, but this is now the second offensive lineman for the Bears in as many days. Eric, you know what's happening now, don't you?
They're buying it.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. What's going to happen at pick 10?
Oh, they are picking up Genty no matter what.
Yep, they're taking Genty. Like I said last night, lock it in.
Yeah, you can.
And if they don't, I can't imagine that they would take another defensive player. I think that this is a, Benedict Johnson offense, and he wants his Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yep.
That's what he wants.
He wants his big offensive line that can, they can be road graders. That's what he wants. And some pass protection for Caleb. And he wants to run a similar style to what was ran in Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, he said many times, and I didn't address it, where he was saying that he's never had an opportunity to have like a mobile quarterback and this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah.
And whether those were shots fired or not.
Oh, it was.
And if it was, great. Ben's going to find out real soon. You don't poke the bear, right? You just don't. That's just one thing you don't do. You don't want to piss off Dan Campbell. You don't want to piss off Jared Goff or anybody else. And I think he's going to find out real quickly that we're going to be hanging bearskins on the wall all 2025. Matter of fact, that's what I need. I need a bear rug to walk in on every day. That's what I need. I need a bear rug. Anybody got a spare bear rug? So, yeah. Well, good work. What did Trace have to say in here? Jonah Jackson is not a people mover, period. Yeah, absolutely. He is not. Ben Johnson building his offense slowly but surely. Absolutely. Marine says F the Bears. I wholeheartedly agree. Michael Lukey says Poles is learning from Holmes, finally filling major holes before the draft. Yes. I think Poles made a big mistake yesterday, and I think he heard it. I think he heard it from fans. I think he heard it from media outlets that you just did what with Jonah Jackson? Yeah, so this obviously is huge, bringing in Joe Thuney.
I'm going to tell you what, Bears fans think they stole the world with Jonah Jackson yesterday. They think he is the second. They just keep calling him former Pro Bowl lineman for the Detroit Lions. They don't say nothing about his time with the Rams or his last season in Detroit. They just talk about his 2021 Pro Bowl. That's the only thing they talk about.
Yeah, so let me do this here. I'm going to put this link in the chat to Twitter. Everyone just go in there and drop an F the Bears, if you don't mind.
Yeah, there we go.
Just drop an F the Bears and Ian Rappaport. And then also drop in a follow Rockhound Detroitlions. How about that? What am I checking on YouTube? Again, I just got another.
Uh-oh. Somebody say something?
No, it's you. I just got another message.
Oh, jeez. Nice. They're coming through right away.
It's funny.
Jeez. Yeah. The internet's working spectacular this morning.
Yep. All right. What's next?
All right. So the next thing is you have 10 free agents that could interest the Lions by Tim Twentyman.
Yeah. Let me get the sheet open here. We were going to have Riley report today, but Riley's, I guess, not feeling well. So we'll save that for another day. All right, Tim Twentyman had 10 free agents that could interest the Lions. Now, Holmes did say after the season ended that his goal in free agency is to first focus on re-signing his own players. And with JMO and Hutch either getting a 5th-year option or possible extensions, obviously that's part of this conversation. We don't know what's going to happen. Last night we did an exercise live after the mock draft where we kind of walked through what would it look like if they just picked up the 5th, and then what would it look like if we did some sort of an extension that made sense. Now I was comping JMO as I had Jalen Waddle money in there, and then there was another comp in there that was a little bit less, but I think 3 years at $50 million is probably a fair comp for JMO right now. He probably doesn't believe so, but that's probably a fair comp. And then Hutch, 5 years, $140 million. I think that's a fair comp. Either way, if we just picked up the 5th, the Lions would be upside down about $13 million next year in capital, in cap space. So that's not great. Obviously, you can't start the year off negative. They'll figure that out. They won't stay negative. But the Lions are obviously running out of money. And even though we haven't even started yet, they're already running out of money because they have all these guys to re-sign. So it's obviously going to limit, how big of players the Lions are going to be in unrestricted free agents this season. There could be, room under the cap to do both. I'm sure Brad is going to be extremely finessing with how he gets these contracts done. I think, with the NFL increasing the salary cap for 2025, again, by, over $23 million, obviously it's helping the situation. And next year we should expect a very similar outcome again, pushing this cap probably over $300 million. But look, this gives Brad Holmes a little bit of flexibility with the cap continuing to rise, just like it is for all the other teams. Now, let me read a quote here real quick by Brad Holmes, where he says, quote, "There are a lot of decisions that we have to make because we are at the point. We are at the juncture with our roster right now that we have identified a lot of young core pieces that we want to keep around. And unfortunately, that's the tough part, is that you got to make decisions on other players contractually that you might not be able to keep, that you want to keep." Now, that's an important statement, because when I mention guys like Kirby Joseph on the trade block, that's as real as it gets. You want Kirby, but can you afford to pay him $18 million? Who are you going to lose? You're either going to lose JMO, Branch, or Gibbs. One of those three is going to have to go. You can't keep them all. Brad continued when he said, "So it's not more so due to you don't want to have the players anymore, but you just can't have everybody." Look, if Brad wasn't so good at drafting and finding us unique pieces, I would be concerned. But I have confidence that no matter what we do, no matter what Brad does, he's going to refill the pipeline again in 2025. More young, cheap contracts with rookie deals, players that could contribute in year one. And by year 3, you're looking at the same scenario. Do I extend? Am I doing 5th-year options? Am I doing, a minor restructure? How do we keep, more of these now new identified core pieces for the next wave? But when he said that we're at the point, we're at the juncture, this is also the point where I let you guys know that my theory on roster roulette, it's not so much a theory as it is a mathematical problem. This is when it begins. This is when roster roulette hits for the defensive end position. You started there in 21. You are now 4 years down the road. You have to backfill where you started. Offensive line, defensive line, and then some of your other key pieces that you focused on in 21 and 22. Those are going to have to be refilled now. Same thing for next year. What did you take in 2022 and 2023 that now you have to backfill? You've got one big expensive contract coming for Aiden Hutchinson. You backfill that with a lower, less expensive contract in a rookie. So who are these free agents? Well, defensive tackle Milton Williams from the Philadelphia Eagles. I cannot imagine that the Eagles are going to let this guy walk. They're doing everything they can right now to shed weight and cap weight so that they can retain some of these players. Milton Williams, I mean, he's kind of shocked the world here with, I think it was a day 2 pick. or day 3, maybe. I think it was a 3rd round pick. And he's had an incredible season last year. And honestly, the way he's played, he's been one of the best upfront, defensive linemen for Philadelphia during the playoff run, but all season long. He had 5 sacks, 10 quarterback hits as a rotational player during the regular season. And then he had 2 more sacks in the playoffs. The only problem is he's set to have a big market at only 26 years old and could potentially cost more than the Lions are willing to spend in free agency this offseason. This is a guy that you're probably going to end up paying a Lee McNeil kind of money to. And I'm going to say the same thing that I've said about Aiden. I'm going to say the same thing I've said about Kirby and Brian. You cannot have 2 guys making max money. You just can't at the same position. It doesn't work. It may work for a season, but it doesn't work long term. And once that saucer starts to wobble, so to speak, it can spin out of control in a hurry. The next guy, Brandon Scherf. Brandon Scherf at 33 years old, again, makes sense because he's a proven vet. We just brought in Kevin Zeitler, who was, 34, 35 this last season. Had a great season. Now, he's been a model of consistency, Brandon Scherf has. The last 3 seasons in Jacksonville, he started all 17 games for the Jags each season. He didn't allow a single sack in over 1,000 snaps last season. He would be a plug-and-play veteran, addition that is still one of the best pass blocking players at his position if, in fact, Kevin Zeitler doesn't return for Detroit. Brandon Scherf is high on my list right now. What do you think?
Yeah, bring him in.
Yeah, I mean, at 33, we get a couple years younger.
Yep. And if the money's right, the money's right. I mean, and that's the type of move that Brad's going to do to try to save a couple $1,000,000, because making the Pro Bowl, Zeitler is going to want to raise. And we got him on a super cheap $6.5 something million contract last year. He's going to want a little bit more than that probably to stick around. I know he wants to stick around, but the numbers just may not work.
And I better get my phone up because these details keep coming in.
Oh, we got some more?
Yeah, not really. I'll wait. Okay, so Brandon Scherf, when you look at the kind of money that he could potentially make here, last year he was $11.6 million cap hit. He's got a bunch of voided years. Obviously, when the Jags move off of him, if they don't retain him, you're probably looking at similar money to Kevin Zeitler. Could you bring him in on a $7 million deal for a season? If you can, I think it's the right move. If you can bring Kevin back, I would love to have Kevin back, but I don't think that Kevin's looking for a multi-year deal at his age. I really don't. I think that he wants to win a Super Bowl, and he has an opportunity to do it in Detroit. I'd rather see him come back than to have to bring in another guy that has to learn the system. The good thing is Brandon Scherf's a consummate pro, and he's going to be able to step in and play, right? Kevin Zeitler knows the system, has relationships. It makes more sense to bring continuity back and pay an extra $1 million than it does to bring in a new guy to save an extra $1 million. That's my take. Edge, how about Deo Odeyingo? Now, the Lions love the idea of signing a big edge rusher in Marcus Davenport, and I think that there's still an opportunity that Davenport could be back. I'm getting a little less warm on that idea as the time flies, but last year they brought him in to collapse the pocket, and he was doing a phenomenal job until he was injured. Odie is 6'6", 286 pounds, so he's a little bit taller than Davenport. Definitely has the weight. Had 11 sacks and 34 quarterback hits over the last 2 seasons. So again, he's not a huge stat guy, but he's a production style of guy where he's going to put the work in. He's going to force the ball, to Aiden, or he's going to force the ball to the defensive tackle, or he's going to force the ball to a firing linebacker. Either way, he's a very good edge setter. And if you're going to bring in a rookie this year too, I think it would be highly beneficial to have multiple guys in this rotation. I'd love to see Zadarius Smith stick around. Obviously, with Aiden coming back, you need Z. I mean, he's right now your security blanket. But bringing in a guy like Odie or Azeez Ojulari, who's next, I think both of those guys make sense. Now, Ojulari could also provide some position versatility. obviously in Calvin Shepard's defense, as a Sam linebacker, which we desperately need, and as a rotational edge rusher on, other downs when we have maybe a heavier front end. Now, if the team can't re-sign him or re-sign Derek Barnes, which I would just let go, quite honestly. Derek Barnes he's just not cutting it for me. He's a good player. He's not a great player. Ojulari had 6 sacks in 11 games last season for the Giants. He has 22 sacks in 46 career games, which stacks up to a half a sack a game. I mean, if you believe that sacks are everything, then you love those stats. What I see there is a guy that is able to get home, a guy that can find the quarterback, that can make a play. And you like to have those kind of guys around. So Edge, Deo, Odie, Ingbo, and Azeez Ojulari. What are your thoughts here?
Well, either one, fine. But they're going to have to be on a cheap deal because we are literally going to be running out of money. And I'm thinking you need to get young at the edge really quick because you aren't going to be able to pay 2 of them a whole bunch of money. You got Zadarius Smith on a semi-cheap deal for what he is. And I think those 2 together. And I think if you're going to pick, let's say, between Deo, Ojulari, and Davenport, and you can get any one of the 3 for similar money, which one would you pick?
So what was the last part of the question there? If I could get what?
So all 3 of those guys. So you got Deo, Ojulari, and Davenport, and you can get a 1-year deal with any one of the 3 for kind of similar money. Which one would you pick?
Well, I know we won't get a 1-year deal on Azeez or Odie.
Okay.
Those are going to be brand new contracts, minimum of 3 years. Yep. So Odie is $16 million market value.
Whew.
Azeez is probably right in the $8 million range. Davenport's probably still in that $5 million range. What I would say here is, okay, do you believe that maybe the future is getting younger? Then you bring in Odie, Azeez, trade Zadarius.
Yeah.
That's your only option. Trade Zadarius, you get younger, you bring in 2 younger guys that'll cost you about $23 million a year for 2. You've got a linebacker and an edge, and then you've also got a 2-way player in Azeez Ojulari that can do both. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Forget Davenport at that point. Z's gone, but now you've reset the floor. You've gotten younger. It's not a ton of money. You obviously are giving 3-year deals, so you can kick the can a little bit. And you still bring in a rookie linebacker and a rookie edge behind them.
Yeah.
I think that would make the most sense for me. Can he make it all happen? That's the question. I think we have enough money to do it right now. You'd have to do something with Zadarius Smith.
Yeah, because Zadarius is what, 11 million?
I think so. Let me pull it up. So Zadarius this year is going to have, oh wait, no. He only has a cap hit of 5.8.
Oh.
I thought he was at that 11 million. So, well, no, hold on. He still has some voided years. So when you do move off of him next year, it says that his cap hit this year is 14.2 million. Now, that's our accrued dead cap. In 24 was 4.6, and in 2025 is 14.23. Let me just look at what happens if I move him. So if I trade him, pre-June 1 trade, the Lions would assume an $8.4 million dead cap hit this year. So if you do a post-June trade, that's where the Lions can save some bucks. They would get a $1.8 million dead cap hit this year and then a $6.6 million dead cap hit next year. But if it's a trade, then that other team is going to assume the contract.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just say that if it was a trade, then yeah, you're probably going to have to be responsible for a little bit of something, but not the entire contract. So maybe trading Zadarius Smith makes sense if you can bring in a guy like Odie or Aziz or both. But I don't think it's a one-for-one trade-off here. I think that Darius Smith brings a lot more to this team from that vet. I mean, you saw the way he was last year. I mean, he couldn't get in the game, and he had these guys all riled up, playing out of their minds. Imagine when he's able to work next to Aiden. So I do like both of those guys. You know, I've been high on Ojulari for a while now. Next one is safety, Talona Hufanga. Now, obviously with Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch as the starters currently at safety in 25. Branch isn't, I don't think he's ever going to play anything but safety again, probably for the rest of his career, at least in Detroit. You have Iffy, who is not re-signed and planning on hitting free agency at this point. The Lions are really short on depth. Really, really short. Kind of the same situation that we were last year, something that I warned against, and we're in the same situation again this year. No matter what, I think the Lions are looking for a safety in free agency, and they're also looking for a safety probably in the draft. One or the other has to happen, unless they bring back Iffy. So Hufanga was an all-pro in 2022, but then he struggled through some injuries the last couple of seasons. So he could be what he is, which is a really good box safety, provide some depth at the position, you know, overall. I'm curious as to what his contract is looking like. Or at least the potential market value. Whenever it wants to load, there it goes. Yeah, he's commanding some big bucks. So he's also another guy that's coming out of his, you know, first contract. So he's 11.9 million market value per season. So you're looking at a 3-year, $36 million deal. And these, you know, this is the type of money that I don't see Brad spending on multiple players. I think that he'll probably get one $12 million guy. He'll probably get one, you know, $7 million guy, one $5 million guy. He can make all that stuff work. But getting multiple guys at that kind of money is not going to work when you're trying to retain your own players. Now, I would not spend $12 million on a safety and then get rid of Kirby. Like that just wouldn't make any sense. You know, I mean, it makes sense because you're probably saving $7 million a year, but it doesn't make sense because you're kind of starting over, you know, with a guy that has not been in your system. And like Brad says, you know who you have now, right? You don't know what you don't know about these other guys when they come in. Yeah, they might have been great, you know, in San Fran, but it may not work in Detroit. It just might not. That's the risk you take with free agents. And I think that's the biggest reason why Brad is very very smart with who he selects. How about defensive tackle Javon Kinlaw, another former San Francisco 49er. Defensive tackle had his best season with the Jets on a 1-year deal last year. 40 tackles, 4.5 sacks, 5 tackles for loss. Played in all 17 games the last 2 seasons after dealing with some injuries. 6'5", 319 pounds, so he's got the good size, right? A little bit different of a skill set than McNeil and DJ Reader. Definitely a nice rotational piece, but the question is how much is he going to cost? I guess overall in the chat, in the comments later, you guys got to let us know, like, what are the most important positions do you see Brad going after in free agency? Like, what makes the most sense? Javon Kinlaw is only 27 years old. He'll be 28 when the season starts, you know, in the summer. He's a former first-round pick, number 14 overall in 2020. Last year, I don't know how he did that. Last year, he had a cap hit of $2.8 million and a dead cap of 6.9 with all the bonuses. So he is a free agent. The question is, what is he worth? What do you think, Eric?
I'm not sure. How old is he?
I think 27.
27? That's the right time frame for that. Been on multiple teams. Last year was kind of a prove-it deal for him. What did he make last year?
2.8 was his cap, but there's obviously some other money in here on void years that will be due to him. He'll be paid $4.4 million this year. So when you look at it, it's like $7 million.
Yeah.
And when I look at an overall comp package, he would probably consider a 2-year deal. I don't know that he's going to consider a 1-year deal at his age. At 27 years old, like this is like the last time for one more max deal or a partial max deal. You could probably bring him in at 3 years, call it 22, 23, 24, 25 million. Let's go 3 at 26. 3 at 26 million. I would do it all day. I would do it all day. But I just don't know that those are the kinds of numbers that he would be willing to accept. Now, his contract last year was 1 year at 7.25. His valuation is somewhere between 6.3 and 8 million a year. So if you go 3 at 24, yeah, it probably makes a lot of sense. And he does provide, that different set of skills, if you will, than both Reeder and Ali McNeil. And he is an instant starter. He does get to the quarterback. Last 2 seasons, he had 8 sacks combined over the last 2 seasons. Again, he played in all 34 games. The guy's a pocket mover. I don't know all of his measurements and all that. Obviously, I haven't weighed all that yet, but I like the option. What do you guys think about Javon Kinlaw?
Yeah, I like it.
All right, wide receiver Josh Palmer is the last one that we'll talk about. So St. Brown and Williams obviously are the clear 1 and 2 to start the season right now. And Khalif Raymond, could he be a cap casualty? I have a feeling that when I have my conference call today that we're going to find out the Lions are probably going to be making some cuts between now and Friday. And I'm interested to hear what's going to happen. So it's a nice option, obviously, to have a Josh Palmer who kind of fits that almost size that I think that Brad's looking for, the 6'2", 6'3", 6'4" wide receiver, but he's only 6'1". But he's also 210, and Josh Palmer also has some speed. He's a receiver that I think could blend well, especially if you're going to be losing a guy like Tim Patrick. His valuation's around $6 million a year. He has not been a stat eater by any stretch of the imagination. Last season, he had 584 yards, 39 receptions, 1 TD. But in an offense like the Lions have, obviously he's going to be able to find more opportunity. And with Amon-Ra St. Brown and JMO taking a large share of the targets, or at least a large share of the defensive scheme, scheming towards those 2 guys when they're on the football field, Josh Palmer may find a nice little niche for him where he can actually get open and do some damage. What were your thoughts on Josh Palmer?
Doesn't really light the flame for me. I would rather see us take a rookie, someone like that Iowa State kid, Jaden Higgins.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that kid. 6'4" and 5'8" or something, and ran a 4.4 40 and just looked the part. And our new tight ends coach is going to know a lot about that kid because he played at Iowa State where he was the tight ends coach. So he's going to know a little bit about that kid. There's a couple of Iowa State kids that intrigue me. I think we have to draft our big-bodied wide receiver, our Tim Patrick this year, whether we keep Tim Patrick or not. To me, if it was between Josh Palmer and Tim Patrick for the exact same money, I'm going to take Tim Patrick.
Yeah, I could see that. Jay Cruzen, I'm sorry, I must have missed your message in here. I'm just now looking at the chat. I have no idea what you're saying in here. It says something at will, but I don't know the rest of it. So if you want to repeat it. Marine asks, is Tesla an option? Yeah, I think Tesla is going to probably be available in the 5th round. So good option on him. Josh Palmer, he runs a 4.5 40. But you guys know how I feel about the 40. It doesn't matter to me. Like, I'd rather see how they run on the field. And, are they playing faster on the field? Look at the GPS numbers and see where it matches up. This guy had a 124-inch broad jump. And that tells me he's got burst.
What did Amon-Ra run?
God, it's like a 4.6, didn't he?
Yeah, it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible, and that's why he slipped.
Yeah, he doesn't. He plays fast.
Yeah, you tell me he's not fast.
He ran a 4.59, so just under a 4.6.
Yeah.
But on the field, I think he's been clocked at 22 miles an hour.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah, a lot of free agent cuts turning into options for the Lions. Now, these 10 that we've gone over today, or whatever, however many, we went over more than 10 today, I'm sure. Out of all the ones that make sense, I like the Brandon Scherf idea if Zeitler doesn't come back. Milton Williams probably not going to happen. Deo Odie, it's a lot of money. I think that the Lions are going to try to get young and definitely get an edge in this draft, because that's the part of the whole process, right? You're going to have to pay Aiden. You're not going to be able to pay another edge guy, 12, 11, 10, $15 million. Just doesn't make a lot of sense there. Long term, obviously Z's on a final year of his deal, so that one doesn't really matter a whole lot. Azeez Ojulari makes a lot of sense because he's a little bit less expensive, at least right now. But I'm looking for these 1-year contender deals. You know, who can we snag on a 1-year contender deal? And so far with the free agents that are on the market, there just hasn't been a lot of those available just yet. So not prove it deals. I call them contender deals because it's their opportunity to come into Detroit and contend for a Super Bowl. And maybe they'll bounce around to another team the next year. So anyway, what else you want to end with today?
Well, here, let's go off topic for a minute. That kind of goes with this. So there's been murmurings around X and all over the internet, and some people have written articles about this, that the Detroit Lions were hot and heavy with the Cleveland Browns trying to trade for Myles Garrett last season at the trade deadline. And that now this season, the Lions have made calls to the Cleveland Browns trying to trade for Myles Garrett again. Do you think there's any possibility whatsoever that the Lions try to say, okay, here's a first round pick, here's a future second round pick, whatever it is, you know, multiple first, whatever it ends up being. Do you think the Lions do not so much F them picks, but try to pull in someone like Myles Garrett? Because I personally just don't think we can afford it. Do you think there's any way they can pull it off? Even in fantasy land, do you think there's any way that the Lions could pull off that kind of a trade?
Well, in fantasy land, of course you can do it, but I don't operate in fantasy land.
Yeah.
You know, I operate in the real, in the now. And,
yep.
and to be honest with you, Brad Holmes has already made it abundantly clear. They're not going to bring in a high price free agent, especially the likes of Myles Garrett. I don't know where this information came that said that Brad reached out to the Browns a week ago or whatever. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe, I mean, of course, maybe all teams probably called.
Yeah.
And they all got the same answer. No, he's not getting moved.
And in my opinion, I think what's going to happen with the whole Myles Garrett thing, I think that Garrett is going to end up being in a giant feud with the Browns. The Browns are not going to budge. We're going to get through the draft next month. Nothing's going to happen. We're going to get past June 1st. Nothing's going to happen. And then we're going to get to the season, and Myles Garrett is going to be sitting in his living room watching NFL games on Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV. And I think that's where Myles Garrett's going to end up being this fall, is on his couch, if he really wants to dig his heels in, because I don't think the Browns are going to come off the soapbox. They are not going to cave. They will let him sit and be fined every day that he's there until he comes back and plays.
You know, I think it's funny, right, when these guys sit, because they hold all the cards.
Yeah.
When they get all these fines, they end up getting those fines back, either on their new deal or the team that they're with, you know, gives them the fines back. It always happens.
Yeah, they forgive it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's like remember the running back for the Steelers that sat out a whole season? What was his name?
No, I
Bell or
don't
whatever.
remember that.
He was a Michigan State running back, and he ended up
Oh,
holding out
Le'Veon Bell.
Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it cost him. He ended up getting screwed because he got the new deal, I think, from the Jets or something, and it just never made up for the money that he could have made had he just stuck with the Steelers. And what a mess that was. I don't like the I'm the type of person, let's say if I today went out and I signed a contract with you, Will, and I signed my contract for $1 million to be the co-host of Rockhound Detroit Lions.
I can only do 990.
Okay, well, we'll do 990. And then I'm doing a really excellent job. And a year later, I signed a 5-year contract, right? And a year later, ESPN comes along and says, hey, we want Eric for our show. We're willing to pay you $4 million a year. Well, now I want out of my contract. And you don't want to let me out of my contract. But me personally, I would never, if I sign something and say, hey, I'm going to be here for this many years, I don't care what somebody else is offering me, even if it is life-changing money. I have to honor what I've done. I'm that kind of a person. I'm not the kind of person that can, put my loyalty to one thing and then all of a sudden change my mind. That's just like, I'm not going to be a Lions fan for 50 years and then all of a sudden, oh, hey, I'm a Bengal fan. All of a sudden,
you'll be a Packer fan when you're old and you have dementia and you forget about who your team is.
Oh, hey, yesterday I got my tickets to the draft. So don't forget, get on One Pass, get your tickets to the draft.
So, I'm glad that you value contracts because there's a couple of individuals that haven't fulfilled their contracts and I just haven't spoke up about it yet. But
but that's what I mean.
It can get you in a lot of trouble for some of the things that have been said and done.
Yeah.
And we'll see how far I push the envelope. But the thing with this though is here's what I would say about the contract. Yeah. Let's say that, Myles Garrett was let down by the Browns. So you signed a contract with the Browns and you're like, I'm going to give you everything I have, but I expect you to put a team around me.
Yeah.
And they make all these promises to him and they say, yeah, we're going to build a team around you. We're not going to do a rebuild. We're going to keep gunning for it. And then it doesn't happen. And so the Browns essentially let down on their side of the deal. And now Myles is like, well, you failed me. I've only got so many years left. I want out. You're going through a rebuild. I told you I didn't want to be part of a rebuild. I'm out. I think it's okay to walk away at that point. I do. And honestly, if you signed a deal and you got approached by ESPN, I'd say see you later, bye, because I'm the type of person that want to see people to do better for themselves.
Well, yes, but the Browns are in a different situation. They don't want to let him go. This is someone that they value highly. He is their best player. They don't want to let him go. And I just don't understand. He's got 2 years left. Just do the last 2 years and go wherever the heck you want. Tell him don't tag me because it's not going to work. But when I just don't, maybe it's the newer generation. I just don't understand how someone can get into a contract and then get halfway through it and decide, oh, I'm not going to fulfill my end of the bargain.
Happens all the time, man.
Once you signed on the dotted line, man, you need to just put your head down and plunder your way till the end.
I mean, there's life circumstances that change. Like I would never hold anybody, to pull their feet to the fire and, force them to do something that they want to, don't want to do. But in this case, from a sports perspective, I would have to take the side of Myles for this reason. How many times do NFL teams sign a contract with you and then they say, well, we don't want you no more. See ya. And you're cut. And now you got to move your whole family. Yeah. You had all this guaranteed money that you're not getting anymore, or you only got a little bit of guaranteed money. You're not getting the last half. That's why I call these contracts fugazis, because You'll get a big signing bonus, and that's probably all you're really guaranteed to get is your signing and then your guarantee. But there's all these other little things in the contracts that we don't see. We have no clue what exactly they're getting paid. We got an idea, a surface level idea through Spotrac and over the cap and things of that nature, but we really don't know everything that's being paid or not being paid. So these teams do it to the players all the time. I think it's a give and a take. I'm on the side of Miles. Like, you know, he's got a short window of a career. And if he wants to go win a Super Bowl and he doesn't see it happening in Cleveland, then let the guy out, man. I mean, you're not going to help anyone by forcing him to stay because you're either going to have to pay him. And that's another thing. He said the other day, and this came up yesterday again on the Pat McAfee show or something, he doesn't care about the money. He doesn't want to do an extension. He doesn't want to redo his contract. He just wants to go to a team and win. And that's great. But not many people can take on the contract that he has already, let alone then signing him to an extension, because that only makes more sense. You know, we got off of this tangent talking about, you know, Brad Holmes and what is he going to be able to do this year with free agents. And, you know, here's a quote by him talking about these guys where he said, you know, Holmes didn't really address the Myles Garrett thing or Max Crosby or any of his intent. I mean, it was really clear that he gave the response that he wants to lock up his own players. He really doesn't want to go down the what if. You know, he doesn't think that there's any way, shape, or form they're going to be able to bring in a high-priced free agent. And he said this. He said, those guys are hard to acquire, and it's hard to keep them financially. Again, we have one that's due for an extension, and we've already kind of gotten to the planning stages about him already. And so when you talk about adding another one, it's like, well, all right, can you financially add another one? Because you want to add the other one on top of everything else that you have, and that makes it tough. So when he was asked, can the Lions add another premium talent after locking up Hutchinson? And his answer was, probably not. And that was at the end of that press conference. So the minute that they lock up Aiden Hutchinson with an extension, you can forget about it. So do you want Aiden or do you want a new player?
Yep. To me, it doesn't make sense. I like the whole homegrown, keep your own, let's develop and draft, use free agency as a gap filler, exactly what we've been doing. Don't go out for the super high price free agents. Get value players that make sense. Get 1 to 4 players every year in free agency and try to re-sign a lot of your lower end players off of your roster that are, you know, restricted free agents and unrestricted free agents, guys that know your system that can come in and be filler, because you need a lot of filler guys. You need a lot of back end guys that are depth, and a lot of those guys, they don't count against the cap, because what is it? Only your top 51 count against the cap.
Right.
So bringing in a lot of those guys, we're going to sign a lot of free agents, but it's going to be a lot of those lower end tier guys that don't even count against the cap.
Yeah, that's the funny thing how that works. You know, a lot of these guys that are on vet minimums or whatever, that they really don't. They don't really count. I just saw Brent's statement there. He said that, you know, what did Garrett only have 14 sacks last year? Like, that's good, but not crazy good. Yeah, but what's crazy good is 14 last year, 14 and 23, 16 and 22, 16 and 21, 12 and 20, 10 and 19, 13 and a half and 18 and 7 in his first year, 2017, 102 and a half sacks over his career. There's hardly anybody that's ever done that.
Yeah, that's like a sack a game.
Yeah. Well, the point is there's hardly anybody every year, every single season that is getting more than 7 or 8.
Yeah.
You know, he's getting double digits every single season. If you believe in sacks as the only contributing factor to winning football games, which you know I don't, it's been proven that sacks are not the end-all be-all. I mean, Brad Holmes said it himself that it's not the end-all be-all. Kelvin Shepard said it. Aaron Glenn said it. They've all said it. They want to maintain the pressure, but you got to contain the quarterback and the run game. If you can focus on those two things, you're winning. All right, so at the end of the day here, Man, there's so much more to talk about. Free agency is just, it's gone sideways already because of what happened yesterday. You know, instead of tags, you get cuts, and you got a lot of them, which just kind of gave the Lions I guess, a little bit of an extra peek, if you will, as to who's available. And I think even though that these guys are projected to be cut, I don't think that they can necessarily talk to them until Monday.
Yeah. Monday through Wednesday next week is going to be crazy.
Yeah. It's cold in here, man. I'm freezing right now. I turned off my heater. I forgot about that. So, yeah, I think we're good for today. We got a lot more work to get in for tomorrow.
Yeah. We'll keep looking at the free agent market, seeing the stuff that's coming out with all the other teams and what moves might the Lions make, because you know someone's going to get cut on the Lions. It's almost inevitable that it's going to happen, and I'm surprised we haven't had any cuts yet.
Well, like I said, I've got a conference call here in about an hour and hopefully learn a little bit of what's about to go down. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe I'll be back with more information later.
Awesome.
All right, you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining the Rise and Grind Morning Show each and every day, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., sometimes over, sometimes late, but we're here every day. Try to be. Eric, hang out with me for 1 second if you can.
Yeah.
I want to see what sheets you need, and then we'll get that sent over so you have some more info. You guys have a great day. Go in Pride. Go Detroit Lions. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.